Okay. So this is a reference variable which refers to current class instance variables, current class methods, current class constructor it will refer. So this is a reference variable which refers to current class instance variable, current class constructor, current class methods. So these all current class objects if you want to refer, then you can use it this keyword. So this keyword, so even see why you need to use this keyword is, this is the one parameter and here instance variable. So parameter and this method parameter also same, instance variable name also same. How you can differentiate which one you want to call? If you want to call instance variable in duplicate parameter names are there and instance variable name and parameter name is same. To refer the instance variable, you have to use this keyword. This dot name will refer always instance variable. So this dot name always refer instance variable. Okay, so that's the, this dot name will refer to instance variable. When you can use this for instance variable to refer, if local this parameter name and your instance variable name is same, to differentiate that, if you call this dot name, this always point to instance variable. If you call normal, see the color also different, at least remember like that. The color brown color means that's a parameter, the method parameter. If it is turning to blue, that's the instance variable. When you use object reference dot variable, so that will refer to that class object reference variable dot the so variable name. Okay, so that's the, so instance variable means, and how you can refer instance variables and parameters. And this one is the album reference dot name means album class object instance variable. Album dot artist means album class artist. Album dot price means album price. Album dot number of copies means album class number of copies you are referring. Object reference dot name, object reference dot artist, object reference dot price. So this is the how he is going to manage. Now you can create object. This is the instance method, and this class method if you want to call, you have to create object for this class. But there is a parameterized constructor, you have to pass the parameter value. So I'm going to create an object for the parameterized constructor class. So you have to pass the value for that. Create object for the class using new keyword. Stockkeeper, SKOB is equal to new stockkeeper. When there is a parameterized constructor, you have to pass this parameter value. So I'm passing parameter value. Because this is the constructor, right? New keyword after whatever is there, that's a constructor. So I'm going to pass. So that's the parameterized constructor. Now I need to call this this method. How can I call? Object reference dot. So manage album. So first one, object value you need to pass. What is this object reference value? What is object reference value?
Album.
Album, how it will become album? Object reference value. What is the object reference value? What is this object reference value? This is the one, right? This object reference value. Now, what is this object reference value?
John Day.
Manage album parameter. Can you tell me manage album parameters? What are the parameters? Sharif, what are the parameters of this album?
Album, string name, string artist, double
Albums.
place.
Then what is the album value you need to go? You need to give. That's the first parameter, right? What is the album value you need to provide? I already given an example here. What is this value? This one. Then what is this value?
New albums.
New
Albums.
album. Then what is why you are not catching that? This is the already left part. When you are calling this reference variable value, always I told you, right? New album. This man, son. How many times these basics, you should catch those basics, right? Okay. So the album name is Slippery When Wet, and the artist name Bon Jovi, and price is 1,000, and number of copies is -50. So see, there is no. Is there a possibility of price negative and number of copies negative?
No.
But so it is. We are able to give. He is able to give. So that means stockkeeper is able to give his own data. But where is the control? There is no control. That's a problem. So there is no control in the album class. And whatever you give, it is taking. But how can you control that? So how can you make control of album class? So even the other people give a wrong data also. How can you control that? So to control the data and everything, so then you have to follow album class, make it as an encapsulated class. So that if you are not allowing to use a variable, then you cannot give values, right? Directly to this. And I can control. So this name and artist price, everything I'll declare it as a private, so that I cannot use that, so that he cannot give his own data. So I can control in this class. So how I'm going to control? Let's see this. Now I'm reducing. You understand the problem, right? So the people are giving their own data, but there is no control. So album is not controlling now. And anybody can give their own data. But that control we need to add in this class. So how can we add? So let's see this. I'm going to do that. Private private, so that variables are not accessible by anybody. So private string, name, artist, price, number of copies. So now I need to make it, there is no setters and getters. I will add a setters and getters for this. So how do I add a setters? Every variable has a one setter method, one getter method. So now variable you cannot access. That's why see now it is throwing error. It is throwing error. Why? Because the name is not visible. See, it is saying very clearly, album.name is not visible. So what should I do? How can you pass these variable values then? Because you're not giving a permission to other person to give, directly call the variables. Then how can you call? Make a methods. For each variable, you can make one public setter and getter methods. I'll create manually one. Rest of the things I'll ask to create by Eclipse. Eclipse will generate automatically for you setters and getters. You don't need to write. So how to generate a setters and getters? So let me write for the name, then you can do other things. Public void setter method starts with a set method, set keyword, and a name. Set name. So you have to take a parameter. The parameter is string name. Same parameter you take. So whatever the name is there, here also name you can take same. Then this dot name equal to name. So why I'm writing this dot name is I want to refer instance variable. When I call this method, I'll give this value. That value will go and store in this instance variable. See the variables I'm consuming inside the methods. So this method is a public, so you can call this method anywhere and you can set the value for this variable, for this instance variable. Okay, once you set it with the setter method, you get that value, you get this variable value. How can you get that? Public. So the return type is string. Whatever the variable return type is, that's the return type here, string. Getter method starts with a get keyword. Get name. So return name. So this is the setter and getter methods. Setter methods are void methods. Getter methods are return type methods, because this method is returning a string type data to you. Then how can you generate? So name I have written. For these three, I'm going to generate. So setters and getters. So right click, source, generate getters and setters. So you can generate wherever you want. So select all, and after insert that methods where you want to insert. After get name method, generate it. See it here, it is generated automatically. Set artist, get artist. Set price, get price. But set number of copies, get number. So, but the problem with these two, right? These two methods, he is giving his own data, negative data. I need to control this price and number of copies. So I'm going to write a logic here. So the logic is, because he is setting with the setter method. So I'm going to write logic here. So what is the logic I need to build? If price is greater than 0, then only you set the price whatever he is setting. Else, so this dot price equal to 0, you set it. So that's where you are controlling. Same you do for the set number of copies. If so, number of copies, so greater than 0, else So this dot number of copies equal to 0. You assign the value there. That's it. Okay. Control Shift format. So code is formatted. See all setter methods. So this is the way I'm controlling. So he is not going to give you a negative values he gives, and it will come and set 0. So 0.0 this one. That's a double, right? Price is a double value. So that's how we can control here, and you cannot call now variables. So instead of variables, you have to use setter methods and getter methods. If you want to set the value for this variable, you have to call setter method. If you want to get the value, you have to call getter method. So let's go and consume these setter methods here. So what I'm going to do, and instead of this, I'm going to call set artist. So artist. Set price. Set price. Set number of copies. See, everything I'm setting value for that variables. So set number of copies. So this is the setter methods you are calling, and for this method you need to pass this parameter name. So whatever when you call this method, you will give this value, right? That value will go and store in this method instance variable. So the same this value also like this. And if you want to call this, because variables you cannot call, you have to call getter methods. You want to access, so call getter methods. Get name method. Same get artist method. Get artist method. Same get price method. Get price method. So get number of copies. So get number of copies. So this is the how you can so call the values of that variables. Now you can see, even if you give a negative value, and it won't set negative value. See that? 0, 0. It set 0.0 and 0. It's not going to set -1000 and -50. Why? Because we are controlling everything. We are controlling everything. Even you can generate the getter method for this also. So either you can use a parameterized constructor to set the value, or you can use a setter method also. I can use a getter method also for this. So to get this stockkeeper name, I can create a getter method. Get, so name. So return name. So, and you can see whatever the value you set here in this constructor, that will go and set here in this variable, because you have already written here. Okay, when the constructor you're giving, right, that value will go and store in the this dot name means in the instance variable. It will go and set there. And if you want to get that, you can call so this dot get name method. This dot get name is current class method only it will call. Not even get name method is there in the album class also, but album class method, how you can call that object reference dot that method. But current class get name method, how can you call with this keyword? This dot get name method. See, I'm calling in another method. This is another non-static. This is another non-static. Only this keyword you can use in the non-static methods only. Okay, so that's all about the difference between when you don't have a encapsulation, when you have a encapsulation. So when basically encapsulation, what it will do is it will give a full control to that class. Even other person cannot modify it. So you can give only permissible values. You cannot give no wrong data. So that we are controlling here. So that is this encapsulation means. Any questions? And I covered this keyword also at the same time. So this keyword is used to refer current class instance variables, instance methods, and constructor. So when you can use, so this keyword, if two instance variable name and parameter name is same, method parameter or constructor parameter, to refer instance variable, you are calling this dot name or this dot any variable, if you call, that will refer always instance variable concept. So left side. And right side, you are assigning that right side value to this instance variable, this dot variable. So, and also methods also you can refer with this keyword. One method you want to refer. So now see this method I am referring. This is the current class method, stockkeeper class method. That I am referring inside another, this non-static method. How I am referring? This dot get name method. That means stockkeeper class get name is this one. But album dot get name is album class get name method. That's a lot of difference. Okay, so how you are differentiating other class, if two classes have a same method name, how you can refer. So always you have to use object reference. But in the same class, if you want to refer, you can use this keyword. One class, so inside one non-static method, another non-static method, if you want to call, you can use this dot get name method. That will refer, that meaning, this means, okay, this class non-static method. That's the meaning of this. Current class objects, it will refer. This always refers current class objects. Are we good, or any questions here? So before going to the, I'm moving on to the constructor next. Any questions?
No, sir.
You'll all say no, but no questions will ask, and when I ask questions, nobody will answer. What is this? That's not fair, right? Okay. Anyhow, so let's move on to the next topic, that is, so OOPS concept, first OOPS concept is done, encapsulation is done. Now we are going for the constructor. So what is meant by constructor? So a constructor in Java is a special type of method. So that is used to initialize the object. Basically, you want to initialize the object, you will use a constructor. So constructor is invoked at the time of object creation. That's what I have shown you here. Object creation time only your constructor will be called. This part is called constructor. New keyword after whatever is there, that is called constructor. But this one is a constructor parameterized. So previously we create this the default constructor, but this one is a parameterized constructor. So new keyword of whatever is there, that's called constructor, but The constructor which doesn't have any arguments, that's a default constructor. The constructor which has an argument, that is called parameterized constructor. There are two types of constructors. So default constructor and parameterized constructor. So why you will use constructor? A constructor is used to construct your variable values. So you want to construct your variable values, or you want to provide a default values, and you will use constructor. So what are the points you need to remember while creating a constructor? So constructor name must be same as its class name. And constructor must have no explicit return type. Like method have a return type, right? But constructor doesn't have a return type. Constructor doesn't have any return type. So Java constructor cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. You should not use abstract, static, final, and synchronized. So these keywords you should not use in the constructor line. In the constructor inside or constructor line, constructor creation line, you should not use any keywords. Abstract to, static to, final to, synchronized, you should not use them. Any keyword, so not applicable for the constructor, any of these keywords. So there are two types of constructors, default constructor, parameterized constructor. A default constructor means constructor which doesn't have any parameters, like this one. So this is doesn't have any parameters. Or where is the constructor you didn't create here? So every class automatically have one default constructor if you don't create it. So automatically compiler will create one default constructor if you don't have any constructor in the class. So if there is no constructor in the class, compiler automatically creates a default constructor. If a class has a default constructor, while creating object or for the class, no need to provide any parameter values. That's what we did right here. So you are not providing any values here for album class. Are we providing? Because album class has a default constructor. That's why you are not providing. But stock keeper has a, so this is the parameterized constructor. So this constructor has a parameter. That's why while creating object, you pass the parameter value. Like the same as a method. So constructor has parameters. So while calling the constructor, you give the parameter value. Like a method has a parameters, right? These are all parameters. So this value and this value and this value, all these values we supplied. Same way when you are calling constructor, so that time you have to give parameter values. So what is the purpose of default constructor? So a constructor that have a default constructor, it constructs the default values for your variables depending on the type. If it is integer, 0, it will give. If it is a string, null. If it is object, null. If it is a boolean, false. So like that, the default values will be constructed by a default constructor. So parameterized constructor, a constructor that have parameters is known as a parameterized constructor. So access modifier, class name, so data type P1, comma data type P2, and so on. You can write. So how many parameters you want, you can write it. So that's a parameterized constructor, how you can create it. So why you need to use a parameterized constructor? So basically you can provide different values to the distinct object. Each object you want to pass different values. You can use parameterized constructor. You can use parameterized constructor. That's a parameterized constructor purpose. If a class has a parameterized constructor, while creating an object for the class, need to provide parameter values. See now here P1 value, I need to pass here while creating object. That's what I did example, best example here, this one. See, this has a parameterized constructor. So while calling that constructor, I'm passing that parameter value. So this is the point I'm covering here. So what is constructor overloading? Constructor overloading means it's a simple technique. So in which a Java class has a many constructors with the same name, but parameter values will vary. So constructor, so a class can have multiple constructors. Constructors are multiple. And so mainly the parameter data type and the order will be different. So parameter data type, one constructor to another constructor, how you can differentiate? Name is same, right? How you can differentiate? Number of parameters in the each constructor. Maybe one constructor doesn't have parameters, maybe another constructor which has parameters. So like this you can differentiate the constructors based on their number of parameters and their data type. So let me show you that in the Selenium, the constructors, the constructor overloading best example. See, this is a cookie class cookie. See how many constructors here. A cookie with name and value, 2 parameters. So same one more constructor, name, value, path. So what is the difference between this one and this one?
First one has 2 parameters, and second one has 3 parameters.
3 parameters. That means number of parameters are increasing. So that's the how you can differentiate. See, next constructor, you see that. So if you give this name, value, domain, path, and expiry, then this constructor logic will be called for you. If you give these values, 3 parameters, this constructor logic will be called for you. If you give 2 parameters, this constructor will be called, not other constructors. So based on the, while calling time, based on the parameter values you are passing, how many parameters you are passing, then it will go to that body. So this body, it will go and call this logic. Whatever the logic you build in this constructor inside. So that's the constructor overloading. So a constructor which has different parameters in the class, multiple constructors, that is called constructor overloading. So any questions before moving on to the last point? Difference between constructor and a method. What is the difference between constructor and a method? So constructor is used to initialize the state of the object. Method is used to write the logic for particular task. So constructor must not have a return type, but method must have a return type, right? Return type can be either void or without void. Method must have, but constructor doesn't have any return type. You should not write any return type in the constructor syntax. So constructor is invoked implicitly, automatically it will call. When you create an object, in the object line itself, constructor is calling. You don't need to specifically call that. But method, explicitly you need to call with object reference. So that's the difference between method and constructor. So Java compiler provides a default constructor. If your class doesn't have any constructor, method is not provided by compiler in any case. There is no default method. You have to create your own methods. So constructor name must be same as its class name, and method name may or may not be same as its class name. So these are the differences between constructor and a method. So please read this and practice the encapsulation and come back on, okay? And basics, go and refer the basics again. Method syntaxes, variable syntaxes, and parameter syntaxes, And that if you don't know, you cannot do anything here. And object reference, you're not able to tell object reference value. Object reference value is always new and class name parenthesis. That's the object reference value. Okay, yeah. So please read this and every day finish them and come back next class. Okay. Any questions before going to close? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, I'm closing.